Okay, it brings me to the next point, the global impact competition. So the local contest in which we share one scholarship worth 30,000 US dollars. And the winner will go to the summer program at Singularity University headquarters. So the idea was to submit an original and unique solution leveraging technology to improve education in Holland. So we had quite a few entries, around 60, and these are the top 5. Rob Hermans, Tizian Palazzi, Jelte De Jongh, Michel Visser, Peter Paul de Leeuw, with their particular solution. We can share these ideas later on the website if you are interested. We don't have the time today to share all of these today, but thank you very much for sending this in, on top of course, all the other submissions as well. And what we can offer all of you, and that means the top 5 submissions, is a free ticket to the Singularity University Summit Europe in Amsterdam in November. So I think that's a great prize. So looking forward to share that with you. And now, the winner announcement for the 10-week summer scholarship to NASA, worth $30,000. And the winner is... And the winner is... Everybody ready? Yeah. 1, 2, 3. It's Mr. Jelte De Jongh! Please take note that this has been made possible by Dekos Technology Group, Firestarters Vodafone, and Deloitte. So thank you very much for making this possible. That's great. All right, so there's Jelte. He has a great solution. We looked for entrepreneurial background, academic background, and a great educational solution. And Jelte will share more about his solution in the next 10 minutes. Okay.
Hi everybody, thank you very much. First of all, Yuri and the Dutch organization for having appreciation of our submission. And thank you very much Deloitte for being able to sponsor this alongside the other sponsors. This is an excellent opportunity. Preparing humanity for accelerating technological change, which is the tagline of Singularity University, specifically in education. Let's first take a broad view of what is really changing nowadays in education. Well, this is what's changing. The children today are no longer working in workbooks, in paper. They are very rapidly moving on to tablets, tablet education. And this has implications on the hardware, because you have this thing on your table rather than writing with a pen, but it has much more a software and a data implication. Because if you're using the tablet for, say, about an hour a day, it leaves what they call learning traces. It leaves exercises you make, and this data that's being generated is where really the change in education is going to take place. To give an idea of the speed, this is tablet adoption in Dutch schools in the past 2 years. 2 years ago, there was virtually no school who was using tablets. Now it's about 10%, and it's expected by the end of 2014, 1 in 4 schools in the Netherlands will be using tablets at the core of their education. Is this a good or a bad thing? I know it has triggered many discussions, but like all technological changes, it's about how you use it and how these changes are changed into new practices of the teachers. And in our view, it's about using this tablet and specifically the data responsibly that you can generate a lot of value. And the important thing is that we don't start measuring different things because we can measure them, but that we choose what we find really important in education and start exactly measuring that. Let me make this more concrete in a minute. To do this, we need the traditional educational expert, the pedagogues and also the child psychologists, because if these are not involved in transformation, it's highly likely that great technology experts like here in the room will start making all sorts of fancy solutions that are not necessarily what the pedagogues have learned in the past 500 years. But also you need other people. You need artificial intelligence people who understand the data and the data analysis you can build based on that. And this together creates learning analytics, a very rapidly emerging field that analyzes learning data. That's a very big picture. Let's make this concrete and share with you a journey I've taken in the past 2 years on a specific example of an educational grand challenge, which is low literacy. It was 2 years ago when I was playing with my jazz band in a tour in Russia, in St. Petersburg, when I was reflecting briefly on my early career. I'd sold my first company when I was 26, worked in management consulting for a few years, and then moved on to do an MBA in London Business School and at MIT. And it's specifically at MIT that they encourage us to not only work with your business skills, but really reach out to other disciplines and change in a multidisciplinary way the way we address our global challenges. So when playing in that, to be honest, somewhat dodgy Russian jazz bar, I decided to actually not go back to the corporate career, but instead try and do something else and practice to preach with what they taught us at MIT. And I started to focus back in Holland on the topic of low literacy. And for those of you who are not familiar with this means you are able to read and spell, but not fluently enough to easily proceed through education and through work career. This is how often it starts. 1 in 5 children, roughly, isn't simply suited for the speed we have in our educational system. So this leaves sad kids, and if you don't help them early enough, they easily develop small gaps in their learning, in spelling, for example, in the first years of 5 to 7 year education. Then, if you don't help them properly, this easily leads to frustration, demotivation at the age of 11, and before you know it, kids of 12 to 15 actually have a backlog of about 2 years, which is what we qualify as low literacy. The only way to break this cycle is to give personalized help at a very young age, and therefore have quick feedback loops into what children are supposed to learn and what they really learn. Just to give you an idea of the numbers, 20% of our 50-year-olds in Europe are low literate. And this means in Europe alone it's about 80 million people, and numbers in the US are slightly higher, and other parts of the world it is equally sad. So this means for these people, they not only struggle in further education, but they also have no idea throughout their life really what all those letters on paper mean. They're very difficult, they have lower work opportunities, and there's even a high correlation between health records, criminal records, and life expectancy and people who are low literate. So it's a big challenge. Back in Holland, I founded a foundation, Leeruniek, which is learn in a unique way, and brought a team together of people with a background in psychology, child psychology, artificial intelligence, UX design, and in computer science. And we found a few advisors who are seasoned in the field in the Netherlands of how to teach spelling properly to kids. Advised by the University of Amsterdam, mentors from MIT and London Business School, and partnering with a big school chain in Amsterdam, with 26 schools that we've been visiting regularly ever since. Most recently, we joined Samsung in a partnership with all 4 major publishing houses in the Netherlands to bring learning analytics into the educational system of Holland. And what we developed, before we get into there, is a prototype of a dashboard for teachers. So this helps teachers of children aged 7, 8, 9 to exactly follow where their kids are. And not just follow, but also see exactly when a child is lagging behind on perhaps only a minor point, but that minor point may easily trigger that downward spiral. So as a teacher, as a teacher you have your dashboard and you get an alert when this guy, for example, is lagging behind. You can see a trend where you see the class average and you see where a specific kid is struggling. And following the trend, you can do certain analyses, which is a bit speech for the orthopedagogues amongst us. But basically what we do, we classify errors and thereby create profiles of children that struggle. Because it's a very different thing if you're struggling because you're, for example, dyslexic, than if you're struggling because at home they don't speak Dutch. Or if you struggle because your cognitive capabilities are simply somewhat more limited. And based on this, we give recommendations to teachers what they can do tomorrow in class. So essentially, we bring the knowledge of external literacy experts into the classrooms so that teachers can act at the age of 7 when kids are 7 years old, rather than waiting this spiral to kick in. Right, we have a prototype we're currently testing with schools that use tablets, and we hope to be able to launch at the end of this year for beta. Let's now zoom out again from the specific example of literacy analytics to the broader topic of learning analytics. And look ahead. Is this a technology that's really exponentially will be able to address our global challenges? Well, in lovely cliché Holland, it may, because here rapidly we have those tablets. But I guess the more interesting question is, to what extent this can really change education globally? And in 10 years, and I think Singularity has the modest objective of doing 1 billion people in 10 years. And to be honest, certainly not just due to our initiative, but if you look at the broader field of learning analytics, I'm sure that actually it may be able to impact 1 billion people in the next 10 years. Just to mention 2 snippets of news of the past 2 months in the technology newspapers. One example, internet.org, which is largely funded by Facebook, have started a project to create internet coverage in the whole continent of Africa, including the most remote areas. And they plan to give that full internet coverage in the next 2 years. This means that schools who have never been existing in the first place, or had no time, no ability to connect to the internet, may all of a sudden, within, I don't know, perhaps 3 years, perhaps 5 years, who knows, have internet access. And another example of how this education revolution is really going at an exponential speed. The Indian government just announced in May that they will developing tablets at the cost of $40 each, rather than an iPad that's currently about $400 or $500. This means that in India alone, they will be connecting Indian kids, Indian schools to the internet, arguably again in the next 5 to 8 years. These are factors that are so quickly and they have such a massive impact. Even in a relatively advanced country like Holland, we use our head start to really develop these learning analytics, and in our case, literacy analytics technology very swiftly. We are able to impact the world globally. And again, I'm really honored to be able to work over the summer, not specifically on our project, but really work with the other experts to build something that may have that impact. Thank you very much.
Hello, Jelte, congratulations winning this contest. I'm thinking the exponential rate of developments, aren't you not afraid at the time when you're ready to implement this idea, this analytics way of data, that it's irrelevant already by speech, because you have programs that language or spelling, maybe by speech it's going to be translated already in a good way and corrected. So, you understand what I'm saying or asking?
Yeah, I think I understand. The comment I would make is the following. If you, it's all about who is making the decisions for personalizing education. You have, on one end of the spectrum, you have the people who believe that algorithms will be able to personalize everything in education, i.e., based on your performance, you will exactly get the right questions that are good for you. On the other spectrum, there are people who say, well, you know what, actually we have teachers and they do have a role. And the data you can get from the tablet sounds exciting, millions of records, but there's so much more context about a child and his development that you can't only decide based on that data. And therefore, and we are much more on that side of the spectrum. So we believe in empowering the teacher and giving insight in where a child is struggling and giving profiles of this dyslexic child versus the child who has learned a different language at home. But actually empower him or her to make the decisions rather than let the machine make all those decisions. And the truth probably lies anywhere in that spectrum. That's my take on your point. Thanks.
Final question. All right, over there.
Hi, congratulations, well done. My question is about the nature of education itself, because education last couple of 100 years has been pretty much authority tells you what to do, and you repeat it, you get graded that way as well, how well you can sort of repeat the tricks you've been shown. I'm more interested in the sort of discovery and exploration type that digital technologies can enable. How do you see digital technologies changing the core, the nature of education?
Well, I guess depending on who you ask it, they will give a different answer of what the core really is. But your point is probably that it's not just cognitive skills, but also personal development and understanding where your strengths are and how to flourish and thrive as a person. To be honest, I'm personally much more skeptical on how that last part can be automated, quote unquote. The harder cognitive skills, whether it's basic arithmetic or spelling, it's fairly logic how to build up. But the personal development, I think that's yet another area where really the people who are around you, whether it's parents or teachers or remedial teachers, will probably for the near future be at the core of what you're doing. But perhaps there may be fantastic scientists and entrepreneurs here who can do something more exciting than we do. Also take that part on board.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.